The purpose of this presentation is to review the software requirements specification document and identify any issues which would cause confusion or a misunderstanding about the requirements of the project. This review will also ensure users, project managers, developers, and testers will be given the requirements in an organized, complete, and correct structure with a high level of quality so that the document can be effectively used in ensuring users have all the appropriate requirements met and to assist in the development and testing of the software components. This review will be split into a number of key sections which will cover the criteria needed for the SRS document to effectively communicate the requirements of the project. These sections include organization and completeness, correctness, quality attributes, traceability, and special issues. Organization and completeness. The SRS document was successfully completed and is structured in an organized fashion. The SRS describes all of the customer's requirements for the software that were recorded up until the date of submission of the document. All introductory sections of the SRS have been completed and correctly preface the requirements listings. These lists follow a consistent layout and contain an appropriate level of detail. As a result, they are all correctly cross-referenced with one another and yield a strong foundation with which to design and test software. The implementation priority of each requirement has been included and allows for a rough understanding of the timing of certain development stages. While the requirements for the user's software and hardware interfaces are well defined, the requirements of the communication interfaces should contain more detail. Correctness. All the requirements listed in the SRS were reviewed before documentation. Conflicts and duplicates were removed during this process. Each requirement entry correctly contains distinct fields that explain the meaning and attributes of said requirement. This, combined with concise and unambiguous language, yields both a high level of readability and identifiable processes which to verify each requirement. Requirements have sources from either the project specification, client meetings, or group discussions. They each have the correct content, no grammatical errors, and fit well within the scope of the project. This implies that there is no information missing from the requirements listing. The information that is listed shows that each requirement is written within a workable design space and is thus able to be implemented with known constraints. If a requirement or use case states a situation where the software can fail, then error messages have been defined for such situations. Quality attributes. The performance objectives were specified within two separate non-functional requirements, robot response time and UI map scalability. While most of the safety concerns are well defined within the user requirements, the non-functional requirements section specifies any additional safety and security objectives. Quality attribute goals excluding the performance, safety, and security requirements are not listed. Traceability. To improve traceability, each requirement has been given a unique identification number to use as a reference throughout the SRS and other documents. The source field for each requirement directs the reader to the origin of the requirement. This allows a requirement source to be traced. The priority system for the requirements in the SRS keeps track of the dependencies between them. Low priority requirements depend on the completion of medium priority requirements, which in turn depend on requirements with higher priority. By following this approach, dependencies can easily be traced between different requirements. Special issues. Any specified requirement within the SRS is explicitly defined as such and does not include any information pertaining to the design or implementation of the software. However, within these requirements there is a lack of identification of time-critical functions. For example, even though the robot's response time is defined, stopping the robot manually is not explicitly stated as needing to have an immediate response. While the SRS does not contain information about any standards that will be enforced, this review shows that it is a complete, correct, and well-produced document. In conclusion, the document has listed all the requirements in an organized and clear structure. The requirements contain a consistent referencing system to help with cross-referencing, clear descriptions to ensure there is no misunderstanding or confusion, priorities to help identify dependencies, and sources to ensure traceability. Additionally, it contains well-defined and clearly written use cases and a detailed interfaces description. The document has been written with a high level of quality and has successfully communicated the software requirements of the project.